Welcome back to Book Break. In this video, I am talking paperback books. I have ordered myself a huge, exciting box here full of brand new paperback releases that came out this month or in the last few months. So if you are holding out for a paperback release, this is your reminder of the books that are now ready for you to go out and buy. But I really want to know what your guys' opinions are on hardbacks versus paperbacks, because I feel like the internet is completely divided, seemingly 50-50 on this, whether people prefer collecting the hardbacks or they prefer reading the slightly floppier paperbacks. I think both are honestly amazing. My book collection is a real mix of both because I constantly change my mind on which one I prefer. So leave us a comment below letting us know if you prefer hardbacks or paperbacks. But for now, I'm going to open up this box full of paperbacks. Just making sure you can't see my address. No, we're good. Is this a well-framed shot? I don't think it is. And we're in! Oh my god, look at this. What is in here? The one right on top is The Pull of the Stars by Emma Donoghue. This is a whole new cover design for the paperback. I love when the hardback and paperback have really, really different covers. In fact, I have the hardback right here. So that is a direct comparison, both absolutely stunning covers actually. But if you've been holding out for the paperback, you can now get your hands on this one. Warning, this is a book set during a pandemic, which I know not everyone is in the right mindset for, but I absolutely loved it. It's set in 1918 during the Great Flu, and it's set all over the course of a few days on the maternity ward at a hospital in Dublin. And we have three main characters, a doctor, a nurse, and a volunteer, all working on this maternity ward, which is an absolutely terrifying place to be. These are all expectant mothers who have all been quarantined together to try and contain the flu. So we do have this terrifying pandemic setting, but it's also a really beautiful, hopeful book about the strength and resilience of women in all of the many, many different forms it can take. And The Pull of the Stars, I actually learned from this book, is what the word influenza means. It's an Italian word meaning fate or the pull of the stars, which is how they described this terrifying illness that we know of as the flu. Okay, next in my box of goodies is Amnesty by Aravind Adiga. So this one is set all in one day. That's two books in a row set in pretty short time frames. This is set all in one day as our main character, whose name, let's remember, is Danny. Our main character is the sole witness to a murder, and so he is faced with this moral dilemma. Should he report what he's seen to the police and try and help this crime be solved? But he is an undocumented immigrant, and if he goes to the police, he will be exposing himself and risking being deported. And again, this is a really, really different cover to the hardback, which I don't think I have here. So I'll show you, this is what the hardback cover looked like, brand new design right here. But then on the flip side, sometimes you get an original cover design that just worked so well that they have to keep it for the paperback. So this is Shuggie Bain by Douglas Stewart, the winner of the 2020 Booker Prize. Shuggie Bain is the main character of this very, very sad book. He is a young boy growing up in Glasgow, and the book spans several decades of his life, growing up gay in a community that wasn't very accepting of that, and growing up with an alcoholic mother who he loves very much and who loves him very much but is really broken and really struggling. I've seen those try not to cry challenges going around on YouTube and TikTok, particularly with books like A Little Life. I think this will definitely be one that I will see turning up in those challenges. Seriously, try not to cry, because you won't manage. Okay, then I've got Fake Law, The Truth About Justice in an Age of Lies by The Secret Barrister. So The Secret Barrister is a real barrister whose identity has been hidden so that they can reveal real truths from behind the scenes of the law. So this is a book that feels really relevant in the age of fake news. It's all about debunking the myths behind some of the biggest legal stories of recent years that turn out to be completely false, based in ignorance of the law, and sometimes based in everything from incompetence to malice. So the secret barrister in this book is really fighting against this kind of abuse of the law that allows the most powerful and ignorant people in our society to corrupt justice. Okay, going back in, I've got here The Glass Hotel by Emily St. John Mandel. I absolutely loved this book, so really, really recommend if you've been holding out for the paperback. It's a really hard book to explain, genuinely. I don't know where to start. It jumps around between timelines, between different character perspectives, almost between alternate realities. Let's see what they say on the back of this book, because they are bound to do a better job than I can do explaining it. So Vincent is one of our main characters. She is the beautiful bartender at this incredible glass hotel. One night at the hotel, she meets this very wealthy financier and begins their life together. And that same night when they meet, someone scrawls a note on the glass window of the hotel saying, "Why don't you swallow broken glass?" And on that night, a man called Leon, who is a shipping executive, sees the words written on the wall and is shaken to his core. And then we flash backwards and forwards from this night, piecing all together these different puzzle pieces. And we know that a decade after this night, Vincent will go missing from the deck of one of Leon's ships. So how do all these pieces come together? You'll have to read it to find out. Okay, then there is The Harpy by Megan Hunter. I think I do have the hardback for this. So you can see here that the paperback cover is really similar to the hardback, but kind of looks more modern in a way. Like, they're very similar but have different vibes, and I love how subtle those differences can be. Both of them, of course, had this figure on the front, so that's your clue that this book is going to be a sort of dark fairy tale. It's about a woman called Lucy who discovers that her husband is having an affair, and so the couple agree that as payback for this, she will be allowed to hurt him 3 times. In any way, he won't know when it's coming, he won't know what form it will take, and that is going to be their way of rebalancing their relationship. But that description is really just scratching the surface of what this book is. It's really about Lucy's mental and physical transformation that she undergoes throughout the course of the novel, and her fixation on the mythical creature, the harpy. Next in here I've got Pandora's Jar by Natalie Haynes. Absolutely love this sparkly paperback cover here. So this is a non-fiction by Natalie Haynes all about women in the Greek myths. Natalie Haynes is of course the author of 1,000 Ships and Children of Jocasta. She is just fantastic at her Greek myth retellings, which all focus on women's roles in these stories. And this is her non-fiction where she actually discusses the role of women in various Greek myths. So as it says on the back here, modern tellers of Greek myth have usually been men, and they have often shown very little interest in women's narratives, and when they do, those women are often painted as monstrous, vengeful, or just plain evil. So Natalie Haynes is here to correct that. The emptier this box gets, the harder it gets to balance. But a couple more in here. This is The Hiding Game by Naomi Wood. Again, let's compare to the hardback cover, which has very different vibes. I love both. I think they're gorgeous, but I really, really love how fresh and bright and colourful this one is. So this is set in Germany in the Roaring 20s at the Bauhaus Art School. And it's about 3 characters who meet at this school and form a very intense, close-knit friendship. But when one of the friends is betrayed, he makes this terrible mistake, which he will then try to hide from the other 2 for as long as he can. And we then look back on this from many years later, when the effects of this mistake and of the secret have reverberated through the years. Okay, last one in the box. The box is now empty. I'm going to tell you about this final book, and then I will mention a few more books that I didn't order today but that are also out in paperback you might want to know about. But first, Writers and Lovers by Lily King. Again, huge cover change. This is the hardback and this totally new colour scheme is the paperback. Again, I absolutely love both. I don't know which is my favourite. I really loved this book though. So this is about a woman in her early 30s called Casey who is feeling really lost in life, and I found it very relatable, being roughly that age myself, when you're at that stage when you're no longer the youngest kind of adult, and also the differences between you and your peers in the same age group can be so wildly different. Some people at that age are married with children, and some people like Casey are still working in a job as a waitress, which wasn't what she'd intended to do long term, but she's still in the process of figuring out what she wants her life to look like. She's also recovering from the recent death of her mother, so the book is very much about grief and it's very moving, and it's about her meeting these two men who offer her two different versions of what her future could look like. So there's a bit of a love triangle element in there, but that's not the focus of the story. It really is about Casey figuring out and defining her own future. I loved it. So just a couple more that I had to mention. Just in case you missed it, did you know that in March the paperback of Becoming by Michelle Obama came out? Just in case you really wanted to read it when everyone was reading the hardback, but you were holding out because paperbacks are your favourite, well, now is the time, go and get it. This is Michelle Obama's incredible story of becoming the fantastic, inspirational woman that we know her as today. And being the First Lady is really just one of her many, many achievements. Two paperbacks that came out last month in April, The Vanishing Half by Brit Bennett, again a really buzzed about one. This is inspired by the book Passing by Nella Larson. It's about two sisters who are born in this all-black neighbourhood and who both leave home and try and reinvent their lives, one of whom ends up passing as white. And it's about their different lives and what happens when they reconnect later in life, but this reconnection is actually driven by their daughters. There is also a trans character in there, so the author is really experimenting with these different forms of passing. And the other book that came out last month was The Mirror and the Light by Hilary Mantel, which is the third and final book in her trilogy about Thomas Cromwell. And that book was absolutely massive, so I can definitely see the benefits of carrying that one around as a paperback instead. And finally, a book that came out in paperback this month is The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman, which is a cozy crime mystery. Absolutely the most talked about book over the last year. I haven't read it, so this is my reminder to myself, it's out in paperback, I better go and pick it up now. So that's just a tiny selection of some of the books that have recently come out in paperback, but as I said, I would love to know which is your favourite reading books in hardback or paperback. Let us know in the comments below. And if you want to answer more questions like this, I will link here to a playlist of loads of our other similar videos where we compare title changes between countries or whether you prefer the US or the UK covers for books. Click through and let us know what you think, and I'll see you next time.